All right. What's up, everybody? My people in Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, all out of Staten Island, my homeborough, Brooklyn. Back out with another video. Now I'm going to title this video, How Great Was Paul Pierce? Paul Pierce, we all know, was outstanding star / superstar, small forward for the Boston Celtics for 15 years. He lasted 19 years in the NBA. And this weekend, he's going to be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, yesterday, Paul Pierce made some very interesting comments on his departure from ESPN. And he said one of the reasons, well, he said he was done with ESPN anyway, but one of the reasons he was ready to go is because he was sick and tired of talking about LeBron James all the damn time. And of course, LeBron James' toxic ass fanboys attacked Paul Pierce, attacked his legacy, and attacked his career. Even though Paul Pierce, in my opinion, is probably the most underrated player of the last 10 to 15 years in the NBA. At least that's just my opinion. No, you're welcome to disagree in the comment section down below. Who do you think it is? But to me, it's Paul Pierce. But I saw a brother, defend Paul Pierce a bit. This brother right here, Bean at MGrads. He said, this is why Paul Pierce is a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's amazing how y'all get on this app and lie. Y'all let what Draymond said cloud your vision, proving you're casual. Yeah, we'll get to what Draymond said in a minute. But anyway, Shaq gave him the nickname The Truth. Paul's been a bucking since he stepped in the league. That's the God's truth, no pun intended. Paul Pierce, all of us who had the honor of watching Paul Pierce in his prime, we know how great he was. I'm a Knicks fan, so near the New Yorker, so we're in the same division as the Celtics, so I saw Paul Pierce a lot. Went to a lot of games as a kid where Paul just lit up my Knicks. But, let's get into this. I'm going to defend Paul Pierce's career a little bit. Okay, now, Paul Pierce, for all you who don't know, was born and raised in Inglewood, California. He grew up a diehard LA Lakers fan, the Showtime era Lakers in the 80s. And for college, he decided to attend the University of Kansas and play for the Jayhawks. He was there for 3 years, played under the great Roy Williams, and the furthest he led him was to the Elite Eight. After 3 years, he declared for the draft. And in 1998, the Boston Celtics selected Paul Pierce with a 10th overall pick in the draft to help revive their franchise. The Celtics franchise had fallen off from glories, in the post-Larry Bird era. Kevin McHale had retired. Robert Parrish had left. Dennis Johnson had retired. They had drafted Len Bias in 86 to hopefully carry their franchise into the 90s, but as we all know, Len Bias passed away a couple days after being drafted. And then we all know about Reggie Lewis. He passed away. God rest both their souls. So because of that, the Celtics fell into a complete oblivion. And in 1996, they drafted Antoine Walker. And in 98, they drafted Paul Pierce, and they teamed up to help probably restore some glory to the Celtics franchise. Paul had an outstanding rookie year. His rookie year, he averaged 16.5 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game, shot 44% from the field and 41% from three in the lockout 98-99 year. Had an outstanding rookie season. Okay, as the years went on, Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker developed into two-star teammates. And in 2001-2002, Paul Pierce made his first All-Star team, and that year he averaged 26 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 3 assists a game, and shot 44% from the field and 40% from three. Paul Pierce could shoot, man. Like the dude said, he was a walking bucket, and because of that, he led the Celtics to a 49-33 record, and to the playoffs. They went all the way to the conference finals, where they squared off against the New Jersey Nets, led by Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, and old faggot-ass Richard Jefferson. Just playing. But the Celtics were defeated by the New Jersey Nets in the conference finals in 6 games. Over the next couple years, between 02-03 and 05, Paul Pierce averaged 23.5 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, and 5 assists a game. All those numbers were for nothing. Okay, in 03, they got bounced in the second round by the New Jersey Nets. 2004, of course, here's a classic moment of Paul Pierce and Al Harrington talking trash, and Paul Pierce went on to splash a 3 right into Al Harrington's face. But Al Harrington got the last laugh because the number 1 seed Pacers, with Ron Artest, the Defensive Player of the Year, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and Reggie Miller, and Al Harrington swept Paul Pierce Celtics. For all you don't know, Paul Pierce was a top-notch shit talker. Top-notch trash talker, okay? Probably underrated in terms of all-time great trash talkers. Paul can talk some shit, which is what made that interaction with Draymond funnier, but In 2005, they were defeated by the Celtics the Celtics were defeated by the Pacers in a 7-game first-round series. Here's a classic moment. Ron Artest pulling down Paul Pierce shots. Ron Artest straight out of QB. Shout out to Queensbridge. Over the next 2 years, the Celtics missed the playoffs, the lowest point being in 2007. Paul Pierce only played 47 games, and the Celtics went 28-54. 28-54. Paul Pierce was getting older. He needed help, so the Celtics executive Danny Ainge traded for two other aging veterans, Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. Kevin Garnett had been in Minnesota for 12 years. He'd won MVP in 2004, but only got the first round once. Ray Allen had made it to the conference finals in 2001 with the Milwaukee Bucks, lost. Though controversially, he lost, might I add. And with the Seattle Supersonics, he only made the playoffs one time. All these guys, they were all 30 years old, getting older, coming down the mountain. They were on the back end of their primes, and they needed a championship. So they teamed up together. Okay, and the Boston Celtics had a young Rajon Rondo, Kendrick Perkins. They added veteran Sam Cassell, all-star defensive player Tony Allen, and a new era of the Boston Celtics basketball was born. In 2008, the Celtics went 66-16. One of the greatest regular season turnarounds in NBA history. They were the top seed in the Eastern Conference, and in the first round, they faced off against the Atlanta Hawks, defeated them in 7 games. And in the second round, they went up against a young superstar, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who the previous year had made it all the way to the NBA Finals and got swept by the San Antonio Spurs. And and let me say this. What the Isaiah Thomas Bad Boy Pistons were to Michael Jordan, Paul Pierce Celtics were to LeBron James. A lot of people don't like to acknowledge that, but that is a fact. That is the truth. Okay? Just like Paul Pierce's nickname, which he received from Shaquille O'Neal, for all you who don't know. But that Celtics team, Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, two top-notch trash talkers, were getting in LeBron's head. They're playing very physical with LeBron to a point where LeBron's mom got involved. LeBron told her to sit her ass down. Anyway, the Celtics went on to defeat the Cavaliers, LeBron's Cavaliers, that year in 6 games. And in 2008, in the conference finals, they dethroned the Detroit Pistons, who'd kind of been running the Eastern Conference for the most of the 2000s. Made it to the conference finals in 2003, lost to New Jersey. Made it to back-to-back finals in 2004 and 2005. Of course, they won in 2004 against the Lakers, lost in 2005 to the Spurs. 2006, they were defeated by D-Wade. 2007, they lost to LeBron. But 2008, Paul Pierce Celtics truly put an end to the Chauncey Billups era Detroit Pistons. Because I think Chauncey was traded to Denver after this, and then the team just fell apart. And they haven't been the same since. But meanwhile, Paul Pierce and the Celtics went on to advance to the NBA Finals, where they squared off against Kobe Bryant, who was league MVP that year, Pau Gasol, Derek Fisher, and the LA Lakers. A classic rivalry renewed. The Celtics, this is their first finals appearance since 1987, when they lost to the Lakers, ironically. And we all remember Game 1. A classic moment in Game 1 occurred. Paul Pierce appeared to suffer a serious injury to his leg and had to be carried off the court onto a wheelchair. I remember watching these finals. I was a little kid, but I remember watching these finals, man. And Paul Pierce came back and had a monster game. The Celtics won Game 1. Paul Pierce. And what makes it so funny is years later, Paul Pierce admitted that he just had to go to the bathroom. Man, faked the leg injury just to go to the bathroom. That's a damn shame. But the Celtics proceeded to dominate the series in 6 games. Paul Pierce for this series averaged 22 points a game, 4.5 rebounds a game, 6 assists a game. And in Game 6, the Celtics blew out the Lakers 131-92 in Boston, a 39-point victory, which I believe is still a finals record for biggest blowout. And Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen successfully led the Boston Celtics to their 17th NBA championship in franchise history and their first championship of their careers. Paul Pierce, had been in the league for 10 years, finally reached the top of the basketball summit. He's finals MVP and a champion. You see him, this iconic image of him with a towel around his neck, jersey untucked, the finals MVP trophy in one hand, pumping his fist in the air with the other. Finally a champ after all these years. KG, this was his 13th year. Ray Allen, this was his 12th year. They all came in the league around the same time, 95, 96, and 98. Next year, the Celtics, while attempting to repeat, squared off against the Orlando Magic in the semifinals And Kevin Garnett was injured, and they lost to Dwight Howard's Magic, who went on to go to the finals and lose that year. In 2010, they squared off against LeBron James again and effectively ran LeBron James out of Cleveland. Whether people want to admit that or not, that's what happened. The Celtics went on to go to the NBA Finals again that year, where they lost to Kobe's Lakers, this time with Ron Artest. And Ron Artest did a good job on Paul Pierce in that series. You know, the Celtics were never the same again after that. 2011, they made it to the playoffs again, where they lost to LeBron James, who had teamed up with his big bro D Wade and Chris Bosh, all these guys. You know, the big three, the Miami Heat were the first modern era big three. You know, people like say Paul Pierce and the Celtics created the modern big three. No, these guys were the first big three. Guys in their mid-late 20s, all leaving to join one location in free agency. That's modern big three, modern super teams. It was created by LeBron James, whether people would admit that or not. Whether LeBron's fag boys want to acknowledge that fact or not. That is the truth. In 2012, they squared off. 2012, the Heat and the Celtics squared off again. And the Celtics were up 3-2 until LeBron gave a legendary performance in Game 6. And the Heat went on to win the championship of the year. In 2013, after the Celtics made it to the first round and got bounced by my New York Knicks. After that, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry were all traded to the Brooklyn Nets. One of the looking back on one of the worst trades in NBA history. I mean, they made it to the playoffs. They won a playoff series against the Raptors and proceeded to get smoked in 5 games by LeBron's Heat. The next year in 2015, Paul Pierce joined the Wizards, and he hit and we all remember this moment against the Hawks. He hit a clutch bucket. In the ESPN report, Chris Broussard asked him, "Did you call bank?" And Paul responded, "I called game." Classic moment, man. However, the next year, Paul Pierce was released after that year and went to sign with the Clippers. And signed with the Clippers, and they got bounced in, I believe, the first round by the Trailblazers. And then 2016-17, going into 16-17 season, Paul Pierce announced his retirement, and which led to this classic moment right here. Draymond, Paul Pierce talking shit. And Draymond said, "They don't love you like that. You thought you was Kobe? You ain't Kobe, nigga." Classic moment right here, man. And you could tell Paul Pierce, that kind of stung Paul Pierce. You can tell by the look on his face, he was stung by that one. But hey, man. Hey, Draymond, you never led a team to a championship, Mr. Triple Single. At least Paul Pierce, even though he's got 1 ring, you got 3. Paul Pierce said, I led my team to a championship. Paul Pierce can respond, "You got carried by KD and Steph Curry, Mr. Triple Single." So, oh, man. Of course, this was Paul Pierce final game in Boston. He kissed the Celtics logo. He got a standing ovation from the Boston crowd. And then the Clippers went on to be defeated by the Utah Jazz in 7 games in the first round that year, thus ending Paul Pierce's career and starting his tenure at ESPN. So let's go through Paul Pierce for his career average. Mind you, I'm rounding up. 20 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 3.5 assists a game, shot 44.5% from the field, and 37% from 3. He's a champion, a Finals MVP, a 10-time All-Star. Paul Pierce is one of the greatest players of his generation. You know, and he is to me, because like I said, what the bad boy Pistons were to Michael Jordan, the Paul Pierce Celtics were to LeBron James. That's why Paul is kind of underrated and gets talked down on, disrespected all the time, especially by Shannon Not So Sharp. It got to a point where Paul Pierce called out Shannon Sharp to go on their show, and that never happened, although I was hoping it would happen so Paul Pierce can expose Shannon Sharp for being a casual basketball fan, which is what he is. But like I said, Paul Pierce is a well-deserved Hall of Famer, first ballot. Anyone who disagrees with that, never watched Paul Pierce. They don't respect Paul Pierce's career. Y'all just need to shut the hell up on basketball, man. Paul Pierce, the truth, was an all-time great. But like I said, anyway, if you like the video, click the like button, subscribe. Young Brother Grow on YouTube. Comment down below. Do you agree Paul Pierce is one of the most underrated players in NBA history, especially the last 10, 15 years? Do you agree that he deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? What do you think? Tell me in the comment section down below, right? See you all.